every Lazarus. Your voice is calling me out, and right now I know you're able, and my God, come through again. You can do all things. You can do all things but fail, 'cause you've never lost a battle. No, you've never lost a battle. And I know you never will. Everything's possible by the power of the Holy Ghost. A new wind is blowing right now, breaking my heart of stone.
morning. Good morning. So just one short announcement. I think we'll have a slide on the screen here shortly if you want to take a picture of that slide, because it's going to happen too fast for you to obviously type things out. But in this season of time, we're trying to do as many things as we can touchless, right? So we have touchless ways to communicate with us. So whether it's changing addresses or prayer requests, or you didn't get the emails, or any of those kind of things, you want to take next steps. There are ways to do that without, touching paper or doing things here at the church. So we have a text message number you can contact us at. And if you text that, it goes to Katina. So sometimes when I go, who gets these things? Katina is the one who gets it. So if you send something to info@crossmatters.org email, it goes to Katina. If you text that number, it goes to Katina, right? So Katina is the person who it goes to, so she's the one who manages all that information for us, and it takes it where it's supposed to go. So next step, our next step card's also online at our website, thecrossmatters.org/next, right? So all those things, we're just doing everything we can to be as touchless as possible. If you've missed maybe this first service back. By the way, if it sounds like I'm in pain, I am. I think it's gonna be fine. Second, but it's like last week I had a back problem because I'd done a bunch of stuff and earned it, and then it went away all week long. And then Friday night it hit me really hard, and it's like I gotta grab. It's got grabbing, the muscles grabbing back there in one spot, and then it relaxes, and then it grabs, and it relaxes, and it grabs. So if you go like that right there, they just know I got grabbed. That's all. It's no big deal. It's kind of like when my wife stands next to me. Sometimes she does that kind of stuff. You gotta watch her. So anyway, so if you hear I'm like, what's wrong with his voice today? I'm good. I am, kinda. Anyway, so you might get some laughs today. Who knows? Out of the way that my voice goes as something grabs my back. So. Anyway, so we're doing things as touchless as can. So we still having offering plates come by. We have giving boxes on the walls at all of our campuses. We're not having communion at any of our campuses. We're propping doors open. We're doing everything we can to be as safe as we possibly can. Speaking of that, good morning to our Staunton campus. Good morning to our head at campus. And we've been each week at the Carnival campus. Miss Kathy, which is my wife, it's hard to call her Miss Kathy, but everybody else does, so I'll call her Miss Kathy today, and Mr. BJ will come out, and they've been doing some things for our kids, and they've been making these videos called Cross Kids Cares. And so let's see what the next video is about.
You ready, Kat?
Yep. All right, Miss Kathy, so we're at the ER now. Michael here is going to get you unloaded, and I'm going to give a report to your nurse, Jamie, okay?
Hey.
All right, Jamie. So this is Miss Kathy.
What you got, Kat?
She really wanted to know what an ambulance was like today, and it just so happened that she was also experiencing heat exhaustion in the middle of it all.
It's a pretty warm day out.
It is a pretty warm day, and she was out doing yard work, got dizzy. She was super confused for me. We've hooked her up to the monitor. Her vital signs are all really good.
She got an IV.
I got an IV on her. I'm giving her some fluids, and she's feeling way better now. But she wants to come get checked out just to be safe.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that we check her out and we take good care of her in the emergency room.
Hey kids, welcome back to Cross Kids Care. This is part 2 of our 2-part series with Miss Kathy and her pretend heat exhaustion. If you guys got to watch last week, you got to see her take a ride in the ambulance. How was that ride in the ambulance, Miss Kathy?
You actually drove pretty good.
Well, thank you very much.
It was fun.
Hey, some of you guys might know Miss Jenny from church because that's Cameron's wife. What do you think about that? She works right here at the hospital. As a matter of fact, we're right here in the ER. This is where you would come if you had a medical emergency. And like Miss Kathy had her heat exhaustion. But look, she's already starting to feel better. Her IV's out, but we're gonna go ahead and show you some cool things.
So as soon as Miss Kathy would get here, we would hook her up to our monitor. Kind of similar to what they did in the ambulance, but it does just a little bit more. But we're gonna take a blood pressure too, because I know it was high in the ambulance, so we want to recheck your blood pressure. Second set of vitals, like the ambulance, I would assess her. So I need to listen to her heart, I need to listen to her lungs, check her pupils, things like that, make sure she's doing okay. The reason why we listen to your lungs on your back is because we can hear it much clearer without all the stuff on the front. So this right here is a mega light.
Wow.
We use that for a lot of different things, but if you ever come in and you need stitches, or the doctor has to look really closely at something that's small, this big light can be moved
Oh, wow.
however we need to.
Hey, Miss Jamie, Miss Kathy needs to pick her nose.
No, I do not.
Yeah, you do. Look at that. I've given you some privacy so you can pick your nose, Miss Kathy.
I was kind of wanting to know if you had a Diet Coke here.
Well, we do have Diet Coke. We've got a cafeteria. But while you're here, Miss Kathy, usually the patients don't get anything to eat or drink until we can find out what's going on.
Oh, rat.
So as soon as the doctor comes in and we can tell you exactly what's going on, then maybe we can get you a snack.
I like to watch medical shows on TV, and sometimes they like put something on someone and go boom. If I got hurt at home, someone would come pick me up,
Yeah.
like the ambulance. Pat would take all care of me, and then bring me here, and there'd be people like Jamie,
That's right.
and then they can continually take care of
That's
me.
awesome.
Emergency rooms kind of scared me before. But I feel so much better now about if I needed some help, about how well they would take care of me here at the emergency room at Carlinville Area Hospital.
Absolutely. Right, come on out here. Good morning, everybody.
Good
Oh, man,
morning.
that was pretty interesting there at the ER. Thank you,
It
Miss Jamie.
was.
She's sitting in there. AJ, are you going to grow up and do that when you get bigger?
Maybe.
She's chilling
Hi,
with her
AJ.
drink. Hey, show of hands, any dads out there make a trip to the ER from all the celebrating last night? Everybody still have all their digits? Yeah? I mean, I was killing it last night with some sparklers and everything.
Well, I love 4th of July. I don't necessarily like the loudness of the fireworks.
I love the 4th. I mean, I'm a patriot. I really respect everything
You know-
that they did to get to where we're at today.
Tim and I watched a movie last night about our Navy SEALs,
Ooh,
and
good
I get
ones.
choked up because I am so appreciative of our country
Hey,
and all those that do to sacrifice.
Speaking of all those who sacrifice, quick show of hands, you don't have to stand up. We do this a lot. Where are our veterans or our service members? There's one, right? Oh,
Woo,
my
let's
goodness.
give 'em a
That is absolutely awesome.
Woo!
That is awesome. Now more than ever, we appreciate the freedoms we have.
Absolutely.
The freedoms we have. Speaking of freedoms, we remember for the 4th of July. It's all about remembering.
And we don't want to forget, and we want to remember all
But-
the great places we have in our community.
That's right.
But I think today we want to talk about, well, I want to see how good they are at remembering.
Oh,
Yeah.
good at
Okay,
Hey, I
yeah.
got one quick question about
Okay,
remembering.
I'm ready.
1776, we declared our independence from a child. Oh, right there, she was quick. Oh, who is it? Avery. Who? The King of England,
Good
Avery
job.
Davis. The Davis household teaching their kids about our freedoms. Awesome. Oh, I'm proud.
Anyway, we don't want to get
My
BJ
kids could
started.
have did that, couldn't
Yeah,
you?
uh-huh,
Right?
yeah. All
Throw
right.
that tea in the harbor.
All right. Anyway, speaking of remembering,
Yes.
let's see how good they are at it.
Okay,
So,
let's do it.
okay, you're going to see a quick video clip, everyone.
attention,
And you're
Mike.
going to see somebody hold up a hand and show you 3 numbers. And then we're going to see who can remember those 3 numbers. Okay? All right, let's
Easy
take a look.
peasy. Here we go. Round
This
one.
is round 1. Watch carefully. Remember the numbers. Ready? Set.
Go.
Here we go. Got it? Keep it in your head. Got it?
Is that it?
All right. Yes.
I think I can even get
Well,
this one.
no, let's see if a kid wants to
Okay.
show off their great mental
All right, I'm
abilities.
still
We've
a
got some
kid.
hands up. We've got one there,
AJ,
there.
you got it? Okay. Yeah. Oh, no. Dad's not going to let her talk. Here we go.
Who? Who you pointing to? Jackson?
You got that? Good job,
What
Knox.
was it? What was it? It was Jackson.
Oh, it sounded like Knox from
All
behind.
right. What's the 3 numbers he said?
4, 1, 3. Is that
Who
right?
else
Is
had
that right,
4, 1,
Cash?
3?
Is that okay? Very good. 4,
All
1, 3.
right.
Was that right?
Parents, did you have that? Adults? Okay. All right. Well,
Let's get a little harder.
let's get a little harder.
Okay, here we go.
Round
Round
2.
2.
Ready, set, go.
Oh, boy. I'm out.
You got it?
I'm out.
BJ's done. All right, raise your hand.
I was
We want to see
focusing in on
if
the
any kids
artistic
can do
skills of the
that.
hands.
All right.
I got a good guess.
Does Roman want to try it?
No, Mom put his hand down. He had it, and then she put his hand down.
All right, what's one of the numbers you saw, Roman?
2.
Good job.
Hey, America.
Okay, call on somebody's got their hand up. Holden. 2152, you are almost
So
perfect.
close. Your brother messed you up. Chloe.
The 3 you missed. All right, that was it.
So she made it? All right,
21532.
good job, Chloe.
Not that I have a cheat sheet or anything. Okay.
I
All
didn't
right.
know it.
Well, that was pretty tough.
It was
okay?
for me. I'm no kidding.
But we could still do it.
No, okay.
But let's go to round 3.
Round 3.
Here we go.
Ready, set, go.
Oh, good night. Oh, I'm out. Is there anybody? Mesa, you got it. Oh, what a way to use your head. She's
All
got
right.
a pen and a paper. That's why you're smart.
That's right.
And the only number I need to remember right now, after seeing this poor guy sweating behind stage, is 911.
1.
We're praying
Hey,
for brother. He
you're,
is in some
you're
pain
trained.
this
You
morning.
can take care of it.
There's a lot of us that are trained.
All right. All right. Anybody want to try it besides
got
Bev, who wrote it down? I think Cash wants to try it.
No, he does not.
Yes, Cash wants to try it.
Go
Cash,
ahead, brother. Yes.
5 was the first number. That's right. And it was in there again. Does anybody want to try it?
There's no way. Go ahead, Bev.
All right, Bev, let's hear it. 531423514. That is correct.
Congratulations.
And Bev,
But you know what she did that was pretty neat?
important thing.
It's important things. There is things we need to do to remember, just like in Habakkuk that Pastor Tim's getting ready to preach about this
Oh,
morning.
exactly. And the kids know, because we've talked a lot about this in children's church, and we can't wait to get back there. Even though you rock, Timmy, these sermons rock, but you do not have snack time or playtime. Okay. So, we've talked a lot about the Israelites and how, as they were going through a lot of chaos and moving from being slaves in Egypt to going to the promised land, that God had to remind them. In fact, in the book of Deuteronomy, 23 times, he says, remember what I have done for you. In fact, the Bible verse says pretty clearly in Deuteronomy, remember, he says, the days of long ago. Think about what the Lord did through those many years.
Wow.
And sometimes when we're in confusion and we have a lot going on, we need to remember the things that God has done for us.
That's our history.
That's exactly right.
That's awesome.
And I think writing them down. In fact, when you go home later, kids, you can maybe even put a piece of paper on the refrigerator. And as you see God do things, we can put them down.
So that would be a way that we remember, writing things down. There's got to be a couple other ones, Miss Kathy.
Oh, yeah.
Does any other kids, what helps you remember? What things can we do to help us remember what the Lord has done for us? Remember the soldiers that died for our country? What are some other ways that we can help remember? Does anybody know real quick?
Chloe?
We'll throw Read the Bible, Chloe. That's a good
That's
one.
right.
That's exactly right.
That's right. Reading the Bible and talking about it.
Talking about it, listening to those who have more wisdom than us so that we can learn. And speaking of listening to those who talk to us so that we can learn, what do you guys say? Ready for Pastor Tim? Anybody want to help him out here? Where's he at? Here he comes.
Hey, there is one thing that could help him get through his sermon.
Oh, boy, I'm out.
Continue.
Or distract me, whichever way. So open your Bibles to the book of Habakkuk. We'll continue there. Today what we're talking about is living by faith in a world of chaos. So basically, for those who may have missed some of these messages, you can get them online on our website. You can find them there at thecrossmatters.org under past messages. But the entire theme of this book, as I've been talking about it, is trusting God in the chaos. The world we live in is just pretty crazy right now, right? It's just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of opinions. It doesn't take much to get crossways with someone that you thought was your friend even over various opinions. It's just pretty crazy right now. And in the middle of all of that, the main theme of the book of Habakkuk is, out of chapter 2, verse 4, is that we can trust God. And really how the best way to phrase that verse is that the righteous, those who know Christ their Savior, should be able to have faith in the faithfulness of God. That's really the idea behind that. So Habakkuk starts off and he's complaining to God about, you're not listening to me. How long am I going to put up with this? And how, it's going to take, forever. And what's going on with you? And God comes and says, hey, I'm listening. And if I tell you what I was getting ready to do among the nations, you wouldn't believe me. Okay, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example. And he gave one example of Babylon. And Babylon's getting ready to invade you. I'm raising them up. I'm raising them up to do this. And Habakkuk thought that was a horrible idea, right? And then, and I think one of the services, we actually went back and we talked about some of the things, because God said nations plural, not nations singular, right? And so we talked about nations plural, some of the things God had done when he used Assyria and how Assyria came in and they were the ones God used to judge the northern kingdom. And then it was Babylon coming in for the southern kingdom. And then after Babylon, it was going to be Persia who came in and took over Babylon, so that the Persians, the way God brought people back to Israel, and Persia paid for it. And then after that, it was Greece came in, and Alexander the Great came in. They gave us a common language, and how Rome came in, and they gave us common roads. And so when persecution hit the early church, the gospel scattered across the known world on roads that were built by Rome, and a common language was given to us by Greece. And God always has a plan. That's really the whole concept of this book, that God always has a plan. We're getting ready to do all of chapter 3 today. Chapter 3 is basically God has, in chapter 2, they've had their conversation, and God and Habakkuk. And then in chapter 3, it's basically a prayer, but it's a poem is what it really is. So it's not written like we'd pray. It's a poem. It's written in prayer form. Or it's a prayer written in poem form, right? And the first two verse 1 and 2 really is the request. That's the only request they have. There's a request. And then the middle section of verses, almost all the other verses, are really him remembering. That's what we're going to talk about today. And then the last set, verses 16, 17, 18, 19, those are him making a declaration. All right? So let's just pick up Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 2. Lord, I have heard of your fame. I stand in awe of your deeds, Lord. And here's really the request right here. Repeat them in our day. In our time, make them known. In wrath, remember mercy. Now, the phrase in wrath, remember mercy, understand that in the moment, what's happening is they've been sinning against God for a long time. They've had mostly bad kings for generations. And then now God's going to judge them. So that's what he's talking about. And your justice, and God and you judging us, remember mercy. That's what he's referring to. And he's going back and he's saying, listen, I've heard of your deeds. The storytellers, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and the great-great-grandfather, the old people in our communities have been telling us these stories for generations. I've heard of your deeds. I know of your fame. He says, repeat it today. And without going on all the backstory just for time's sake, this exact same dynamic has taken place with Israel many times. And he's going to review some of those. In verse 3, he starts off, and I'm not going to read and go into detail on all these verses just for time's sake, because I'm going to kind of explain a little bit when I go through the outline. He starts off, God came from Teman, the Holy One, the Mount of Parian. His glory covered the heavens. His praise filled the earth. You see how it's kind of written in a poetic format? It's not really the way we'd actually talk about it. His splendor is like the sunrise. Rays flashed from his hand. His power was hidden. Plagues went before him. Pestilence followed his steps. What's that referring back to? Moses when the children of Israel were in captivity, and he was going before Pharaoh, and there was the plagues, right? So these are these phrases. He's not going in great detail about them, but he's remembering certain things. Like he goes on down in verse 7. I saw the tents of Cush in distress, dwellings of Midian in anguish. He's remembering again, right? He's remembering. And in Cushton, that was the very first oppressor they had in the book of Judges. In Judges, there's the same cycle that's repeated 7 times. And he's just remembering that. Okay, I heard that story. And then he says about the Midianites. Well, the Midianites, that's the story of Gideon, right? The Midianites were one of the oppressors in the book of Judges. And as the Midianites had been oppressing them, God raises up Gideon. Gideon's the least of his own clan, let alone the nation. And he didn't want to do it. And then he says, okay, fine, I'll do it. After they went through this fleeces thing, if it's really you, do this. Okay, well, let's try it again. You're going to try that. Okay, fine, I'll do it. And then he has 32,000 men to attack the Midianites, which wasn't enough. And God says, you got too many. And he's like, what? And so then it whittled that down to 10,000. So 22,000 left, got 10,000 now. And God says, hey, that's still too many. And he's like, oh, are you kidding me? And he says, yeah, we need 300. I got him whittled down to 300. So what he's doing in that one sentence, like the dwellings of Midian in anguish, he's remembering the story of Gideon. Now just think about that in your past. If that was a story of your past. There's a story where God raised up the least of his family, the runt of the family. And he gave him 32,000 soldiers to go to war with, and said, yeah, that's too many. And then he had 10,000, and God said, nope, that's too many. And then he says, okay, we're going to do it 300. Seems absolutely impossible. But that's a part of the standard operating procedure of God. God likes to have impossible setups so that he's the only one that gets credit for it. That there's no question about who gets the glory. It wasn't Gideon, the great army general, who ever got glory, because everyone knows you can't go in there with 300 people and win that battle, right? When the walls of Jericho fall down, right? Everybody knows you don't walk around, blow trumpets and shout and the walls fall down. Man can't do that. You can't make that stuff up, right? He goes on and he talks about, and he uses phrases, again, that are, it's poetic, but he's referring back to real things that happened. You split the earth with the rivers. The mountains saw you and withered. Torrents of water swept by, and the deep roared and lifted its waves on high. What's he talking about? Well, he's referring back to the Pharaoh's army when they walked into the Red Sea. And God parted the Red Sea, and he keeps talking about that. Verse 13. You came out to deliver your people, to save your anointed one. He came to deliver the children of Israel who had set free from the Exodus, right? And his anointed one was Moses, to protect him. You crushed the leader of the land of wickedness, talking about Pharaoh. You stripped him head to toe. With his own spear you pierced his head, and his warriors stormed out to scatter us, gloating as though about to devour the wretched who were hiding. You trampled the sea with your horses, churning the great waters. Now, if he wasn't writing this in a poetic form, it would sound a little differently. But that's the way he was trying to write. He gets down to verse 16, and basically he's just been remembering. And to him, in those verses is generations, centuries of history he just repeated for us. I heard and my heart pounded. My lips quivered at the sound. Decay crept into my bones and my legs trembled. Yet I will wait patiently for the day of calamity to come upon the nation invading us. So now he's transitioning from all those verses about what has happened in the past. And now he's coming back to a verse and he's saying, okay, back in chapter 1, verse 5 and 6, when you said, oh, by the way, I'm raising up the Babylonians, now he's saying, I understand what you're saying now. That it terrifies me. I'm not happy about it. I I heard what you said, and my heart pounded, and my lips quivered, but I'm going to wait patiently. Because when he says, for the day of calamity to come upon the nation invading us, he knows God's already promised. They're not going to get by with this. I got a plan. And we talked about that the other day where it's, when Daniel was reading the book of Jeremiah, in Jeremiah chapter 10, or chapter 29, verse 10, that after 70 years had passed, I will. Okay, that passage, right? And then he goes on verse 17. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crops fail, though the fields produce no fruit, though there will be no sheep in the pen, and no cattle in the stalls. That's rough. Well, the Babylonians, who God called this vicious and impetuous people, are getting ready to attack. Of course, it's bad. This is a bad thing. It's going to be hard. They're going to kill everyone. They're going to burn buildings. They're going to take over stuff. They're going to take your best and brightest, and they're going to exile them back to Babylon. They don't care who stands in their way. It's going to be hard. So even though your crops fail, and even though there are no sheep because they've killed them or they've taken them, though there are no cattle because they've killed them or they've taken them, he says, verse 18, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. And that's really the important thing to remember. I will rejoice in the Lord. That the righteous live by faith in the faithfulness of God. That what he's saying is what I see with my eyes disturbs me. I don't want to go through this. This is hard. This hurts. This is going to be a hard time for us. Many people are going to die. But yet in the middle of that, I will choose to have faith in the faithfulness of God. I will choose to rejoice in the Lord because I know he has a plan. I will still be joyful in God, my Savior. Verse 19, the sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of the deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. The phrase is even, he makes my feet and he enables me. It's just Habakkuk saying, listen, me getting through this is because of God. That I'm going to rely on God and his faithfulness. In the outline, and I'll give you these 6 fairly quickly. Number 1, the outline. Remembering the past deeds of God helps us understand his ways. Remembering the past deeds of God helps us understand his ways. Remember, we've been talking about the difference in the deeds and the ways of God a lot. And I remember in church world, being a youth pastor, coming up through the ministry ranks, and I didn't necessarily always know it was in the Bible, but I always knew I found comfort and strength in remembering things God had already done. Sometimes because I saw them in the Bible, and sometimes because I saw them in my life. And I remember saying to youth groups or saying to churches, I remember at this church, when I first moved here 20 years ago, and we, some things God was doing, and I would say, I remember one time I stayed on the stage and I was talking about, and it was fresh back then, God had us, the first big challenge after I got here was we didn't have chairs. We had chairs to fill half the room, and that's it. We need another half a room full of chairs, and it's going to cost us $7,500. It might as well have been $1 million back then. We didn't have any money, and there wasn't, whatever. And so, we always do. We just pray and ask God, and said to people, if God's stirring your heart to give toward that, please do, and we'll see what happens. And money came in, and we got $7,500 worth of chairs. And that was awesome, And then, ran out of parking, and that was going to cost us like $5,000 in gravel to extend the parking as much as we could. And so, the $5,000 is on top of the $7,500, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we can do that. No. And I just go through this list, and I would just name, God did this, then God did this, then God did it. And things that if I tell you, and for those who lived through that, today it'd be like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's like that would be so small for us today because we have this long list of things God has done. This long list. I remember standing there many times thinking, and for those who are kind of new or don't understand, our original building is down the road a little ways, and it was a large sanctuary basically, and kind of an L-shaped building, and they had classrooms. One wing was classrooms, and people used to talk about when the people who founded the church, when they started building that building, they used to call it a Holiday Inn West, because the hotel that's out on the interstate used to be a Holiday Inn, and so that'd be east, and they were calling it Holiday Inn West, and they were saying it's going to be in a big hay barn, and you'll never be able to fill that building and things like that. And I remember when I came to a church that hadn't grown in, forever really. Sitting in a building that had all kinds of space. They hadn't done the things that they had hoped to do. Now, and I may say some of these things about later too, about other things. And I don't mean anything I say to be ugly toward anything or anybody at all, but just, kind of realities. God doesn't fail. I mean, the song we sang first, right? Right? The very, how he opened it up is that you've never lost a battle. I know you never will. That's true. God's never lost a battle, and God never will. Now, so just hear what I'm saying. All of our campuses, hear me, please. When a church or a campus isn't growing, isn't reaching lost people, isn't reaching people who are far from God, isn't connecting with the unchurched, de-church, what we call the undecided masses, all the terms you want to use, that is not God failing. That's on people. I mean, I don't mean that ugly, but you have to own that. I don't care what campus we're talking about. I don't care what church you're talking about and what area you live in. I'm just saying that a church is not reaching people that's not because of God, that's because of people. Technically, it's because of sin. It's because of insecurities, fear, apathy, some word. It's because we're caught up in our own agendas. It's because our mission is more important than God's mission. I mean, whatever you want to call it. It's because we're not friendly, we're not good inviters, whatever somebody would say, right? There's a reason for that. It's because, personalities got sideways and they chose to love themselves more than they loved Christ, and they hurt their churches. Church conflict should never exist. Conflict in churches is always sin. That's never God. Those are facts, right? Those are just absolute facts. Now, when I sit back and I look at the things God has done, I see a long list of my life of God's faithfulness. And for time's sake, I'm not going to go back today for all the things God's done in our campuses. But God's been faithful. And in the Carlinville campus, we can tell stories for days, right? And we can also talk about times of perseverance. We can talk about times where we had to persevere because that was a part of the process. That there were times that seemed easy, and there's times that seemed really hard. And there are times it seemed like God was silent. We've had to endure a lot of things. We've had to persevere through a lot of things. We've had to trust God in a lot of ways. And if we just sit back and look, we've seen God be faithful over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I remember so many times thinking about standing on the shoulders of men and women who founded the original Carlinville Southern Baptist Church campus. People who mortgaged their homes so that campus could exist. I mean, just think about that. if I said to us today, hey, we're going to start a new church, start a new campus, but I need some people to sign up to mortgage your homes and co-sign for this. You know, here's where you sign up at. How many of you are heading to run to that sign-up sheet? Yet the men and women who did that, many of them mortgaged their homes to be able to have the collateral, because churches are not good loan investments, right? They mortgaged their homes to have the collateral to have that church launch. And I remember just feeling like I'm standing on top. And some of them were dead at the time. Many are dead now. Some are still alive, some still in this church. But I remember thinking to myself, you know, throughout the Bible, God put us in places where things were by faith. And he would say to people, this is going to happen by faith, but then they didn't see it. You know, like they were in Exodus, they were in captivity and slavery for 400 years. A lot of people died believing that God was going to bring them out of slavery someday. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot of people died waiting for the Messiah to be born, right? I mean, a lot of things happened, them waiting for this hope that was going to come. And it's the same way today. And there are people who, you know, I've had grown men, just a year or two ago, I had a grown man, an older man, crying and just saying to me that he don't go to our church. But his comment was he was talking about that we're reaching undecided masses. We're reaching people who are far from God. We'd reach somebody in his family. And he was crying because there was a church that was doing that. And he wasn't bad-mouthing his own church. I just think sometimes about the legacy that we have. People that most of us, you won't know their names anymore, right? Very few of you would know the names unless you were here back then. But these men and women who paid high prices for this church to even exist, they went through ridicule and were mocked until that hay barn got so full that we had to buy a Walmart building. And man, did we get ridiculed for that. And we went through bona fide oppression over that. Targeting. Frivolous lawsuit. That the people who started the lawsuit knew they was going to lose anyway. They knew they had zero chance of winning that suit unless we just quit. But they were fairly confident that this church would either fold up or they'd run me out of town. Now, all through all these stories, God's faithful, right? We've seen God be faithful over and over and over again. Our Habakkuk campus is our oldest campus. I was going to look that up to confirm, but it's like 1853 or 63 or 70. It's in the 1800s, right? People who started that church in the 1800s, they didn't know if Gilead Baptist Church would be in Habakkuk, or, as in 200 people, or if Habakkuk would be, the state capital somewhere. They didn't know that at the time, right? They just started church. And we stand on the shoulders of people like that. The Staunton campus, the original name of that church is Bethel Southern Baptist Church, and that church was started in the 60s. As a matter of fact, Brad Kleeman, the Kleemans are on vacation this week, but Brad Kleeman's grandfather was kind of the founding guy of that church. If you know him, and I could tell you stories. Like when we pulled up there the first day and there was a cross, and I'll say too many stories. I got too many stories. I got stories. The point is I have stories, and those stories point me to God's faithfulness. And what I want to remind you as I kind of finish out this message is this. And I'm not going to keep reminding us of stories. I'm going to close with some stories, I think. But as I talk through this a little bit, I want you to remember your stories. your stories of God's faithfulness to you. Your stories of God's faithfulness to your church or the campus you attend. Number 2, remembering past deeds of God reminds us of his power and authority. Remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of his power and authority. You may have to take some time to think about that. You know, things that God did that just couldn't happen outside of God. Number 3, remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of his mission. Remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of his mission. The mission has never been about growing churches. It's about reaching people. It's about rescuing the lost. It's verse 13 in the passage. It says that you came out to deliver or to rescue your people, to save your anointed one. The mission has always been about reaching people. That's all that God does. You want to be near the heart of God? Reach the undecided masses. Number 4, remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of his position. Remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of his position. He is God. He's Lord. He's sovereign. He is above all. He speaks things into existence. So many times we let other things creep above him in our minds. We get afraid and terrified and overwhelmed and perplexed over things that are beneath God. We somehow render him powerless at times when he is all powerful. And if you start remembering his provision and his protection, if you start remembering the things he has done, it reminds you of his real position. Number 5, remembering the past deeds of God also reminds us of our position, who we are. I mean, that's what the declaration part at the end, you know, the first verses of this chapter 3 is the request, right? It's where, the prophet saying, Habakkuk saying, hey, I heard of the things you've done. I know of your fame. Do them again in my day. You hear me pray that prayer sometimes. If you've been here very many times, you've heard me pray and ask God to do the things that he does in the Bible. Look at the Bible, look at our church, see the same thing. You hear me pray that same kind of prayer all the time. And I pray a lot more privately than I do publicly. And then he had this whole section of, let me remember all the goodness and all the greatness and all the powerful things you have done. And he closes this section out with a declaration of really of his own position of saying, based on who you are, let me just say this. I will wait patiently. What I see, what you have said is terrifying me. I'm overwhelmed by it, but I will wait patiently on the calamity that you'll bring against those who are oppressing us, those who are invading us today. Now, hear me when I say this. I'm not trying to be, again, not being political and those kind of things. Habakkuk and the things he was walking through are very near to the things that we walk through in America today. Same kind of obstacles, the same kind of issues he talked about, the unjust economic principles, just goes through the list of stuff that was there. Now, what if we took a tone of really recognizing who God is? Said, God, we don't understand your timeline, but we're going to wait patiently upon your provision. We're going to wait patiently upon your protection. Because God, we know you'll be faithful. We know we can have faith in your faithfulness. He goes on, he finishes that little section out with, yet I will rejoice. Even though it's bad, even though there's no crops, there's no livestock, I will rejoice in the Lord. We get so caught up sometimes in the stuff going around us, we don't rejoice in God, right? You see the declaration he made, how it changed? Well, that's this point right here, that when you remember his past deeds, all of a sudden you start to realize your own position. My position is not one to tell God and complain about what's going on. My position is one to find joy in him because he has a plan. And number 6, remembering the past deeds of God reminds us of why we should live by faith in the faithfulness of God and not by sight. Remembering the past deeds of God reminds us why we should live by faith in the faithfulness of God and not by sight. Now, I've wrestled with this next part all week long. And I don't really know what I'm going to say. As in, if it makes sense to you, I hope it does. Cross Church is a very successful church. And the problem with success is that it's the only thing more dangerous than failure is success. Because when you're struggling, you're failing, you go, oh yeah, we're struggling, we're failing to get better. When you're successful, then sometimes it's like, we don't want to lose anything, we don't want to risk anything. But the way you went from failure to success was being willing to risk something. You took a shot. You was willing to step out in faith and trust God. And then when you accumulate something or you become something or you have some level of success, then it's like, no, we don't want to take steps like that anymore because that's terrifying. We could lose stuff. And it's not like we're like in that position, but the point I want to bring up is this, and I'm going to apply this to all of our campuses. And anything negative that I say, it's all about me, right? Everything that rises and falls on leadership. And I don't say that as a martyr. That's not what I mean. It's just that that's how the world works. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody other than me. But any struggle that the Carlinville campus has, that's because of me. That's it. Any struggle that we have not overcome is because of me. And we've been rebuilding. Of course, obviously, we're in this, we're having, we was in this growth period and we're doing all these kind of things and God's providing and all this kind of stuff's great. And then this virus thing hits and, so it's kind of squirrely right now. We don't really know where things are. Nobody really knows what's going on in some ways right now. But God's still faithful and we still have faith in the faithfulness of God. And we're trying to flourish during this season, not try to survive and all that kind of stuff. Right now, I think that's what's happening. I think we're actually growing as a church. I believe that. We'll see one of these days. One of these days we'll find out. But I believe that's all true. But what I need to remind the Carlinville campus of is, and I'll take the hit from this perspective. Well, let me bring in the other campuses, and then I'll do that. The Staunton campus, we launched that, and it was crazy how that all went down. God did some cool stuff, and it was like, this is the dumbest idea ever. Yeah, but we think God wants us to do it, so let's do it. Okay, great, let's do it. And we grew from 7 to 120-ish, something like that, in average attendance. Whatever the number was. And starting to talk about, we need to build a building out there. I started to have that conversation a little bit, and so they have space. And then some man stuff got in the way, and God never fails. Don't forget that, right? God doesn't lose a battle, but man gets in the way an awful lot. Battle's not with flesh and blood, but powers and principalities. A lot of damage gets done when man's pride gets in the way. A lot of damage gets done when we want our agenda more than we want what's best for our church, things like that. The Staunton campus got hurt pretty bad by situations that took place, and they're still trying to recover from that. I don't know which camera's looking at me. I wish I knew because I'd look you in the eye right now. But nothing has changed in Staunton about our mission there. God did not send us there for that church to struggle, that campus to struggle. Its struggle was based on damage done by man, not by the failure of God. Okay, pause that. The head of campus comes online Gilead Baptist Church becomes part of Cross Church's network of campuses, and we've had a relationship with Gilead a long time. At some level, I have anyway. Good people. I know a lot about their history, and I can go back. I can tell you their history going back into the '80s, just because I know their pastors and stuff like that, and I have my own relationships here with some of their people during the last 20 years before they became a campus. And, we got that growing. And, again, man stepped in and created some problems, and some damage took place. And, Satan just does that stuff. Man gets in the way sometimes. So what I've said in the past is this. I've said in the past that about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I guess maybe now, I started talking about some of this stuff and how it had affected me, and how, because I end up being the target most of the time. When something dumb goes on, usually they shoot the guy at the front, right? So it's usually me, and so. I don't know how I would describe it in a short version in a public environment, but it just, you get tired of being shot, and you get tired of having the right motives and having motives being challenged and all that kind of stuff, and you get tired of people, giving people a lot of freedom for that to be used to cause damage or whatever. Anyway, side point. So when I said that a year and a half ago, so I started talking that way, what I was saying to this campus was I was saying, listen, I'm taking responsibility for me. That I stopped leading the way I lead because I got tired of being shot. And I recognize that if I step forward, I get shot. If I just back up a half a step, they don't shoot at me. So I might as well back up a half a step. And what I ended up saying was that, but that's not what God called me to do. That's not who God called me to be. That's not who I am. That's not the pastor or the leader this organization needs. That we are called to be a certain kind of thing, a certain kind of light in the darkness of where God planted us at. And that light can't happen by taking a step backwards. And from that point forward, things we have done intentionally have been intentionally in moving toward getting us back, building back momentum and getting us back in a place where we're kind of in the groove of where we're headed to be and that kind of stuff. So now let me wrap it up with 3 kind of statements to all the campuses. To the head of campus and Staunton campus. God's not done with what has happened at your campuses yet. That we're not okay with not reaching the lost, the undecided masses, the unchurched, de-churched in your region. That's not going to go away. God's going to do what he's done in the past. Like if I go back to the Gilead campus, the Gilead campus, I know multiple times where they've gone from the low 20s up to the 60s, 70s, 80 range and back. I know that's happened more than once. But man always got in the way. I don't know as many stories about the Staunton campus, but all I'm trying to tell you is that what God's done in your past, God can still do in our future. To the Carlinville campus, what I need to remind you is that we started this journey together asking God to do the kind of things that only God can do. We started this journey praying prayers like, God, we want your fire to fall in such a way that the undecided masses know that you are God and that you're drawing them to yourself, that you're turning their hearts back towards you. We started this journey saying, God, we want you to do things in such a way that the most cynical person around us would look at it and recognize that that has to be you because mankind can't do that. I want us to take time to remember the past deeds of God. And I want us to come out of that like Habakkuk did. Recognizing that while we've been through a window of perseverance, that God's always got a plan. He's always provided. He's always protected. And our mission has never changed. The platform to be who God called us to be is never been the way it is today. There are people to be reached. There are campuses to be begun. There are men and women who need to be developed into Christian leaders. Some of you are going to have to step up and be life group pastors. Some of you are going to have to step up and take ownership of some things that maybe you weren't going to take ownership of in the past because you've just been kind of coasting and riding the waves for a while because we allowed that to happen. Don't let our success make us apathetic. Our success is only in the goodness and the faithfulness of God. Let's let the goodness and faithfulness of God in our past motivate us to chase after him at full speed in our future. For us to be who he called us to be. To keep taking chances. To keep risking whatever he asks us to risk for his glory. To step out even though we may get shot at. To keep stepping out so that he can draw the undecided masses to himself. Because that's the mission. Multiple campuses was never the plan, but reaching people is. Right? Being big is never the plan. Buying a Walmart building was never the plan, but reaching people is. Working through the virus type stuff was never the plan, but reaching people is. It is chaotic around us. And the one we follow, Jesus, knows the path through the chaos. I want to remind you, I want to beg you, I want to plead with you to start having proactive faith in what God is about to do. Don't get caught up in the darkness and the drama of the world we live in, but remember that you are light in the darkness. You singularly are light in the darkness, and you plurally are light in the darkness. That we're not here by chance. That God's not drawing us to a place by chance. That we don't live in this one era of time by chance. That God has not welded our hearts together. You don't walk in those doors and think, this is home and this feels like family by chance. That the campuses we have are not by chance. God has a plan. And his plan does not involve sitting on your hands. His plan involves us being his hands and his feet for his glory. I've been saying this for like a year and a half or so now, on and off again. Because, if you're going to change the rules of Monopoly, y'all kind of give people a heads up, right? And so I started doing that because it's about me. It's not you. It's me. It's like a junior high kid breaking up with his girlfriend. It's not you. It's me. But I need you to understand. It was back in the day when it was $7,500 for more chairs. Oh my gosh, okay. I don't know what tomorrow is. It's not about money. Maybe it'll be about just flourishing through the Rona, right? I don't know what it's going to be about. Maybe it's about reestablishing our campus. I don't know what it's going to be about. But whatever God asks of us, the answer is going to be yes. Whatever he asks, for as long as he asks, whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, for his glory. That's the attitude that we have at Cross Church. Whatever God asks, the answer is yes. we want to invite his Spirit to come, to engage us, to challenge us, to change us, not just change us like for ourselves, but to change us in the world, to be brighter lights than we've ever been before. Like, can you just imagine what would happen if the people who are in 3 different campuses right now, people who are watching on our iCampus right now who aren't coming back to church yet, if all of us who called Cross Church home, if we all just said, whatever God asks, God gets. Whatever God wants, God gets. For as long as it takes, for his glory alone. Can you imagine the difference we can make? Can you imagine if we all just laid down all of our petty excuses? Can you imagine if we just laid down all of our apathy? All of our side gigs we had going on that were distractions from the mission that God had given us? All the things we do to pacify ourselves and entertain ourselves when really we're called to be the church. Let's pray. Father, God, my mind has so many stories I want to tell. Stories about people, stories about things, stories about how you provide financially, stories about I got stories. God, you have been faithful. God, you're always faithful. God, for some of us, maybe right now we need to repent from the sin of apathy. Maybe we need to repent from the sin of being too busy and too distracted and chasing our own kingdom and our own dreams rather than just coming back and saying, God, what is it you're doing in me and what do you want from me? God, even good things that we enjoy could be in the way of what you're asking us to do and be. God, search our hearts. Holy Spirit, we invite you to come. God, not just for the service, but make us who you called us to be in this region for your glory. Remind us of the mission you gave us. Remind us of the redemptive potential that you've entrusted to us. Father, we love you. And just now I pray. Amen. Let's stand and worship.
Fullness of eternal promise, stirring in your sons and daughters, earth revealing heaven's wonders. Spirit come, Spirit come. What you spoke is now unfolding. All your children shall behold it. Dreams awaken in this moment. Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out. Let your love run over. Here and now. Let your glory fill this house. Pour it out. Let your love run over. Here and now. Let your glory fill this house. Now the world awaits your presence, and this power is within us. We will rise to be your witness. Spirit come, this house. Tongues of fire, testifying of the Son. One desire, Spirit come, Spirit come, sweet revival. Prophesy like it is done. One desire, Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son. One desire, Spirit come, sweet revival. Prophesy like it is done. One desire, Spirit come, Let our hearts continue burning, for our King is soon returning. As we hold to this assurance, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Tongues of fire, testifying of the Son. One desire, Spirit come, sweet revival. Prophesy like it is done. One desire, Spirit come, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son. One desire, Spirit come, sweet revival. Prophesy like it is done. One desire, Spirit come, At the stars in the night, I wonder. At your lightning in the sky, I shudder. Your glory is a blanket that covers every living thing. I'm in awe at the majesty of who you are. Your love is a steel burnt inside my heart. And all of the day I wanna be where you are, Holy Father. And it feels like there's not enough praise inside of me. With all these words, oh, my heart can sing is holy. You are holy.
Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. In naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. So here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. So on my face I fall under your heavy grace. And here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, oh, and I wonder.
I'm in awe at the majesty of who you are. Your love is a seal burnt inside my heart. And all of the day I wanna be where you are, Holy Father. Oh, and it feels like there's not enough praise inside of me. With all these words, oh, my heart can sing is holy. You are holy.
Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. In naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. So here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. So on my face I fall under your heavy grace. And here I lay in awe and wonder. Jesus Christ, you bled your love, laid down yourself, and gave me life. In naked shame you hung and you were lifted high. So here I lay in awe and wonder. Oh, I am afraid, for no one's ever sacrificed and loved me this way. just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you. I pour out all I have. I lay down all I am. I'm making room for you. Lord, I'm ready to open up my heart to receive not in part, but the fullness of who you are. Lord, I'm ready. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you. I pour out all I have and lay down all I am. I'm making room for you. Lord, I'm ready to open up my heart to receive not in part, but the fullness of who you are. Lord, I'm ready. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. Come and reach into my heart. Come and heal every part, Lord. I want more of you. Just one touch of your robe seals the weakness from my bones. Oh, I need more of you. Come and reach into my heart. Come and heal every part, Lord. I want more of you. And oh, and just one touch of your robe steals the weakness from my bones. Oh, I need more of you. Just more of you, Lord. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, God. I just want more. I just want more. More of you, God. More of you, Come and reach into my heart. Come and heal every part, Lord. I want more of you. Just one touch of your robe steals the weakness from my bones. Oh, I need more of you. I just want more.
journey of letting go and get lost in you. From the head to the heart, you take me on a journey of letting go and get lost in you. My heart is open wide. I will receive your light. You give me faith like a child, and you my heart runs wild. There's no shame looking like a fool, and I give you what I can't keep. Take hold of you. There's no shame looking like a fool, and I give you what I can't keep. Take hold of you. More than words, more than good ideas. Oh, I found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. Yes, I found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. Well, I found your love in the open fields. More than words, more than good ideas. I found your love in the open fields. Head to the heart, take me on a journey, letting go, get lost in you. Head to the heart, take me on a journey, letting go, get lost in you. There's no shame looking like a fool, and I give you what I can't keep. Take a hold of you. There's no shame looking like a fool, and I give you what I can't keep. Take a hold of you. Take a hold of you. Take a hold of you. Take a hold of you.
Let's close in prayer. Father, God, thank you for today. God, I pray not just for this message, but God, this week, may you just remind us of just things you've done. Like the old hymn, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and you'll be surprised what the Lord has done. God, I believe there's great truth in that. May we just take some time, not just be grateful for our freedom that our nation and those who made so many sacrifices have given us, but God, we may take time to remember and be grateful for your good works and your good deeds and your ways throughout our past. Father, we love you. So in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. And thanks for coming.